Welcome to this session on psychology of success. My name's Warwick Merry and I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so as we work through some of the key points on what does it take to be successful. It's an important question. There are so many people out there who seem to have, they're a success magnet. They seem to have a whole lot of success come to them, whereas others seem to struggle through it. So I just want to give you a bit of a background on who I am so you can get a bit of an understanding of where I'm coming from and some of the perspective that I want to put to it. Now, for me, I'm currently a professional speaker, have been for some time. I host different events and I have an expertise on exhibiting, but I have not always been in this position. Like many, I've had a varied life. I went to university, did a couple of degrees, IT and accounting, very attractive for the ladies. Nothing like being a geek. I seem to have spent an inordinate amount of money on cars, and obviously not on language because I don't think inordinate is a real word. But I spent a whole lot of money on cars. My first wife and I got together, and for the purpose of this recording, she will be referred to as Voldemort, or She Who Must Not Be Named, with apologies to the Harry Potter franchise. Now, we met quite some time ago, got together, got married, and for a variety of reasons she came and joined my business and we ran a business together. She was doing one-on-one coaching and I was doing the one-to-many speaking, and it seemed to go very well. We were living in a one-bedroom flat and then we bought a house. At the time I remember going to the bank and they were saying, oh, it's only $400,000, you sure you don't want more money? And we were thinking, that is so much money. And you know, and friends of ours at the time were saying, oh, well, that's more than twice as much as what we've spent. This was back in 1995 in the Melbourne property market. So back then, and this was in a nice location, so it was the market price. Fast forward 7 years and we actually sold the property for double that, so which was really quite good. But we set up our own business. I was, you know, having some great revenue coming in. Some years there was just truckloads of money coming in. Other years, not so much. Then it all went a bit south. Then, as happens over time, you know, and there's two of us in the relationship, it wasn't working anymore. I don't think working together really helped us. I think in our and this is not a counselling session, but it didn't work for us. So we thought we could fix this by moving to Queensland. And so here's the picture that of the house that we bought. I actually found this the other day as I was preparing the presentation. I just happened to see one of the old photo directories. This was before digital. You can tell I've taken a real photo and scanned it here. So this was on an acre and a half in Maleny, which is up behind the Sunshine Coast. Beautiful part of town. The house was 6 months old. The guy who built it owned it, and so we bought it off him, which was fantastic. Stunning place. We put a pool on it. It was just paradise. We were living at the resort, and the marriage got worse and worse. I didn't even want to be in Voldemort's company anymore. So I just one day said, I cannot work with you anymore. My business, the move was fine for her business. A lot of her business was done over the phone, so it didn't make any difference. For mine, it was catastrophic because I was now, Maleny's about an hour and a half drive from Brisbane. I was so far away from any of my clients. It was really, really tough. And a whole lot of stuff going on, the relationship wasn't working, and so I just said, I cannot work with you anymore, and I went and got a job, and unfortunately the only job I could get was in Brisbane, and so I was travelling an hour and three quarters in peak hour to get to this job, and it wasn't sustainable, and the marriage was at the point where on the way home I'd pull the car over the side of the road and sit there for half an hour because I just did not want to go home. In all honesty, it was a horrible place. And not just for me, I'm sure Voldemort was not having a whole lot of fun either. It got to the point where I knew that I had to leave, and I knew that for a variety of reasons, I would have to be happy with leaving with whatever I could have in the car. Knowing that I didn't own the car was the business. And so that's what's happened. I left, and all I took was my clothes, my toolbox, my computer, and I left, and then came back to Melbourne. Now, the philosopher Kierkegaard says that life has to be lived forward, but understood backwards. At the time, this was the hardest decision I have ever made. In retrospect, it was the most powerful decision I have ever made and did an amazing boost for my self-worth and self-esteem. So, and since then, things have moved on. So I suppose the reason I'm pointing this out is to just give you an understanding that like everybody, I have a checkered history. We all have a checkered history. There are some who would say everybody is disabled. Some are just easier to see than others. So for me, I left the relationship with $36,000 of debt. I went back to Melbourne where my support group was. I was living on my sister's couch. She was living in a one-bedroom flat at the time. My plan was I would just get a job because, when you work for yourself, you're so busy trying to get money in the door and you don't know what's going to happen. I needed the regularity of just having a job and money coming in to pay debt, because I had this $36,000 worth of debt on credit cards at the 20% or whatever it was. I just needed the money. But I couldn't get a job because so many people would say, ooh, you've worked for yourself for 7 years. Can't take direction. And so I had to be creative on my my resume, and still I had no success. Ultimately, I was prepared to do whatever it took. And I got a job in a call center, because it was really important that, I had to pay. I wanted to move off my sister's couch, so I wanted to, find somewhere to rent. And, I wanted to make sure that I was self-supporting. Now, I'd get a speaking gig every now and again, which was great, and so I'd go and get thousands of dollars for the hour, and then go back to the call center and get $20 for the hour. It was a very weird thing. Now, as part of what I was doing, I had to make sure that because while I was looking for this job, there's a lot of time sitting with yourself, and that's not always, well, for me, it's not always the healthiest person to be with. And so I was my sister was in Port Melbourne, and so I got some rollerblades, secondhand, dirt cheap, whatever it was, and so I'd go rollerblading up and down the beach, thinking that, I'm seeing a bit of the world, I'm trying to be fit. I think I had visions of Venice Beach in California, and just glamorously sliding up and down. Yeah, it didn't work. At one pedestrian crossing where I had right of way, the little green person was showing, the driver of the car didn't notice that, and when they came around the corner, because I'm a beginner, I couldn't stop, they've gone and hit me. I did leave a dent about that big in their car bonnet, something to remember me by. I was okay, pretty shocked. They were okay, but pretty shocked. But so even when I'm trying to do something good for me, it was a weird phase that I was going through. And I think we all go through weird phases, maybe not living on your sister's couch and 36 grand in debt, but we all have weird phases that we go through. I remember thinking at the time that, and people would say to me, oh, don't worry, everything will be okay. And I remember thinking, actually, it's better than that. Everything is okay. I lived in Melbourne, one of the best cities in the world, the most livable cities in the world. I had a roof over my head. Granted, it was my sister's, but I still had a roof over my head. I wasn't living on the streets. I had food on the table. I had clothes on my back. And I, just got this job for $20 an hour because I was prepared to do whatever it took. So everything was okay. I thought it was really important at the time that oh, by the way, and after working in the call center for a while, through contacts, I got a role as the customer service manager for a small sort of IT company, which was great because I upgraded from $20 an hour to 25. Whoa. But it was what it was. And then, things went on from there and improved, so I'm in the position I am today. But I remember at the time thinking, I have to do something for me, because if I'm just sitting around thinking about how bad my situation is, it would just be rubbish. So I made sure that I joined a choir, because I'm a big believer in doing something that's good for you. And in terms of, essentially, you're feeding the soul. It's really important to do it. And so let me just quickly go throughout the course of this, I've said to you that I want to give you the 7 keys to success that I've seen, both in my life, but also in others and other successful people who I've done some work with and analysed. So the first one, as I said, is to make sure you feed the soul. So whether it is, as I said, I went to choir, I did walks along the beach, rollerblading where I could. Melbourne's got one of the best botanical gardens in the world, and so walking through the botanical gardens is an amazing thing. There are so many art galleries around. Melbourne has a truckload of festivals that are going with lots of free events. Whatever it is, you've always got to take time to feed the soul. And this is even if you're working flat out in your own business, or maybe you're in a senior manager in an organization, it's still imperative that you feed the soul. Because otherwise it gets into this routine of, I'm just going to work. I'm just rocking up today. My life is my work and my work is my life. Well, what happens if you get retrenched? Because no one is exempt from retrenchments or realignments or restructures or whatever the corporate buzzword of the day is. You can get sacked like that. So it's important that you continue to feed the soul. And the second thing that I felt was also important is to seek a positive attitude. Now, this is not just, oh, I'm seeing everything positive and rosy, because a positive attitude alone is nowhere near enough. Like, it's not even, I think maybe positive attitude's not the best perspective. Maybe having a healthy perspective is a better way to see it. And I know for me that everything is okay, not everything will be okay. Because if it's everything will be okay, you're always looking to the future and not living in the present. So having that positive attitude or that healthy perspective on what are my assets, what are my deficits, what's the reality here. So I think these are the first two of the 7 keys of success. Make sure you continue to feed your soul and always seek a positive attitude and healthy perspective. Now, I mentioned that I was in a choir and I was introduced to the 3 doors. Now, let me explain this a little bit more. At the time, and this I'd been, I was in between wives. I was single. I'd been single for probably about 18 months, maybe a bit longer. And a friend of mine at choir said, you seem to be a nice person. You seem to be single. I've got 3 girlfriends. Now, door number 1 was the lovely Tanya. Now, Tanya and I to this day are good friends. We actually do work together. She's very good at improv and does a whole lot of corporate training stuff. And so there's times when we work together with our clients to provide an outcome. We also do creative things together. We sing together, we write songs, and so there was a lot of connection, but there was no magic. There was no spark. Now, door number 2 is the lovely Sam. Now, Sam is actually my wife to this day, and in fact, about 4 days ago, we celebrated our 7th wedding anniversary, which was fantastic, and it has gone so quick. I must say I'm truly, truly blessed to have Sam in my life. So I will always value door number 2. When you ask me to pick a door number 2 every time. And the door number 3 is the lovely Shelley, who's still part of our life, because Shelley is also friends with Sam and our mutual friend. And so we see Shelley around, but I'd had door number 2, so door number 3 didn't even get a look in. So for me, I was very blessed in terms of how I was able to meet my future life partner. Now, one of the first things that we did is when we got together is talked about when we realized it was serious, what was success for us? How would success be? Now, I'd always wanted to invest in real estate. I'd thought about it a lot. I'd learnt a lot. I'd been to seminars, and Voldemort was not keen. She was quite fearful of it. She was okay with buying her own home, but not an investment property. Sam, on the other hand, was really open to it, to the point that she actually had an investment property of her own. So it turned out that before we even got engaged, we bought an investment property. And then on the day of our engagement, I had something planned. It was special. It was, for the ladies out there, it was romantic. I did the right thing. The ring was rubbish. But, and I suppose the ring was rubbish because I was only ever going to get married once. I had this vision of I was only ever going to get married once. So with Voldemort, the ring, I sold my car to pay for the ring. And I was young and naive, maybe. Not sure. But this time, I was living within my means, and I knew at that stage I did not have the wherewithal to buy a mega ring. You'll be happy to know that I've constantly made up for it. But for us, we had a vision of what success was, and for us, it was property investing that would get us there, and that's what we have done and continue to do. So, yes, as I was saying, as I was proposed to the lovely Sam, I had planned a weekend away to a very special location, a location that meant a lot to her. And when I was saying, we're going to go away this weekend to this spot, she's like, really? Because there's a house for sale just, 2 hours drive away. Let's sort of go and have a look. So we actually bought the house first, and then I proposed to her. So it was a very interesting day, to say the least. So that's what I see. For us, we knew what success was in terms of how we wanted to set our life up. So the question that I have for you is, what is success? It's really important that you understand, how do I know what success is? And I'll tell you right now, success is not about your job. It's not about the position that you have. There is so much more to work, so much more to life than work. Yet, for many people that I work with and that I talk to, they are so focused on what their work is and what their next promotion is going to be and where this job might move them, without looking at the bigger picture. And in fact, the research shows that one of the biggest causes of death in Australia is retirement, particularly for men in the corporate world, because they are so hooked up into what their job is, and once they retire, all of a sudden their wife's like, oh, I'm not sure I really want you around the house all the day. I was enjoying not having you here. And also their sense of purpose, sense of self is lost because they no longer have the job. So part of your homework coming out of this, and I'd encourage you to get some paper and write down now, I want you to define what is success. Is it, and be really specific. I know for us, we've done a lot more work. It's not just, well, for me, I wanted to have $5 million worth of property, bringing it a 5% return every year, which means $250,000 a year. To me, that's what I want, because I figure I could live, my wife and I could live off 250 grand a year. And in essence, I am a little bit lazy. And so I wanted assets to bring the money in so I didn't have to do anything, so I could do whatever I want. Now, we've gone to the next level and saying, well, once we get to that point, and we're not there yet, what will we do with that money? And we have some definite plans of what we can do, some for us, some for charity, some for others in terms of our time and our service. And in essence, what we decided for 2015 is it's the year of the holiday, and we'll tell you more about that. But part of it is you need to understand in detail what is success. Now, again, talking about the 7 keys of success, we talked about feed the soul and seek a positive alternative. Holding the vision of success is really important. This is a really strong, what am I doing this? No matter what's going on, why am I getting up every day to go to work? Why am I putting up with the rubbish relationships that I have to have in the workplace because that's the personality of the people that are there? Why am I tolerating things that are really not that pleasant? It's the vision of success. It's what I'm working towards. That's why I'm doing it. So I'd strongly encourage you to look at what is your vision of success. But be aware of the success juggernaut. Now, by success juggernaut, I mean this, and this is something that it's occurred to me a long time ago. When you are successful, maybe you're earning a lot of money. So every year, darling, we must go on our tropical holiday. We're going to, somewhere out in the Bahamas, and it's fantastic. Or maybe next year we're going to Europe for a month. Or maybe, every year we have our international holiday, and then we have our, our normal holidays down at, the peninsula or wherever. So all of a sudden, you're used to doing this, so you need the money to be able to afford that. Maybe you want to send your kids to a private school. This comes out of the age, and I think you'll find that private schools can be quite expensive. And in fact, I've heard it said that if private schools were like any other service, they'd get sued for non-delivery of promises. Because that's a lot of money. If you're looking at, the average there on that list just quickly is about $25,000 a year. Now, that's just the school fees. That's not the add-on stuff. That's not the, this year's school trip, we're going to Russia, to Star City to train with the cosmonauts. Or, and don't forget, you must have these 3 different forms of uniform every year, and we've changed the house colours this year, and blah, blah, blah. There's always extras. So if you're paying $25,000 a year, that's after tax. So you've really got to earn about 45 to 50 grand a year just to pay for the school fees. Then on top of that, there's going to be a whole lot of other stuff. So there's a lot of money that you need to earn. And that's, imagine if you've got 2 kids, 3 kids that you want to put through this kind of school. And then maybe you've got to have a new car every 2 years. This is an XF Jag, one of my, I like the look of that car. But, a new car every 2 years, is it really worth the money? So all of a sudden, we're earning all this money, we're spending all this money, and there's too much month at the end of the money. So you need to look at, be aware of the success juggernaut is what I'm saying. And my theory is sometimes you need to be aware of what the cost is of some of the choices that you make. But we'll talk about more about that in a sec. So for yourself, as I said before, I want you to look at what is your vision, or as the legendary classics, the Spice Girls always said, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I said, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna. So I'm sorry for being a bit ridiculous there, but What is it that you want? What is it you really want? Think of I love that exercise from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What will people be saying about you at your 80th birthday? Oh, and just out of interest, our technology in medicine is so good now that recent research shows that if you have a female child born this year, its life expectancy is deemed to be into its 90s. Unless you have money, then it's over 100. So it's quite valid to say at your 80th birthday, what do you want people to say about you? If you want them to say, oh, they're the kind of person who was always there for me, what are you doing now to be always there for people? It's about begin with the end in mind, and this is where Covey is coming from. So for yourself is, what is the vision of success that you want, and what do you need to build it now? And if you're saying more money, I can make that happen. Here's $2, you now have more money. Be specific. So for me, as I said, I'm looking at having $5 million in properties, earning a 5% rental return, 250 grand a year. So for you, what does that mean? And for me, I've then gone into detail of, well, how am I going to spend that money and what's going to work with that? So for you, what does success mean? Because it'll give you an understanding of what you're working for. It's also important to look at the cost of your choices, because everything in life has a cost. What are you prepared to pay? The short-term pain for that long-term gain. Yeah, you can have a car every 2 years, but it's going to cost you in the long term. Versus if I have an older car that I'm not paying as much money for, that money I would have been paying for it, I can put on the properties, for example, or I can invest in something else. So look at what's the short term versus the long term. This is why, and people are not good at short term. This is why dieting is always painful, well, particularly for me. So, it's okay to be frugal. It's okay to, go bargain shopping, because it's all about looking at it. And I've got to tell you, my wife is fantastic at this. She'll go into a clothes store and there's a particular brand that she likes, and she'll go in there and go, oh, I love this. This is great. I'm going to buy that. And then walk out of the store. And I say to her, what are you doing? And she's like, well, it's going to be on sale in 3 weeks' time for half the price. So why would I pay full price? And so this is how she does nearly all of her shopping. And it's, it's just being frugal. It's not buying into the must-have now. See, iPhones are just, they amaze me how a new iPhone comes out and people flock to buy them. Whereas for me, I'm like, if I want a new phone, I'll get one when my current phone's broken, and then I'll look at what's available on the market. I won't be buying the latest and greatest until at least 3 months after it's released, because that's given any bugs a chance to be fixed. So it's always looking at what's the cost. And the thing is, you always have a choice about the cost that you pay, because sometimes you just say that cost is too high, I'm not going to do that thing. So you need to look at that. The other thing you need to consider is that good is a real barrier to great. Now, what I mean by that is sometimes, and I've seen this, and I've talked to some of my property advisor colleagues, and they've said this, sometimes people will get an investment property and go, got one, that'll do. And they stick at one. And Andrew from Moorbanks calls it the negative gearing trap. He says that people they buy the first property, they get negative gearing, but they realise that they've actually got to put money in, and they go, ooh, I can't afford to keep putting money into this, so I'll just stick with one house. And so it's good, don't get me wrong, it's the ATO has said less than 8% of the population have one investment property. But it's good, but is it great? Because my theory is if it works for one, it'll work for two. If it works for two, it works for five. If it works for five, it works for 10. If it works for 10, it works for 12. So if you can look at how do I get better at this, and are you good enough to get better? Are you good enough to realize that there is a different approach? Maybe I look for a different kind of property. Maybe I look at a different investment. How do I make sure that good doesn't stop me from being great and taking that next step? And sometimes it is that letting go of what you already know. There's a lot of people, and it's sometimes I'm one of them, who are like, yeah, I know about that. No need to tell me about that. I know. But by saying I know, I'm keeping a closed mind and I'm not listening again. Sometimes it's just reminding me what I already know, but don't practice. Sometimes it's adding an important element to what's going on that I was not aware of. Or it's just taking it that next step further. So don't let good be a barrier for you to being great. The other question that people always ask is, well, when's the best time to do something? Whether this is in property or whether it's like the Chinese say, a great saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Now. Now, I'm astounded by people who talk about property. Oh, I remember 20 years ago properties were cheap. My thought is, well, in 20 years' time, imagine the people are going to looking back going, oh, if only I bought 20 years ago. So now is the time. Oh, by the way, Google the rule of 72 and check it out. I love the rule of 72. It gives me a great sense of satisfaction in understanding that with the current average growth rates on investments, be it property shares, whatever. And by the way, I'm not just saying success is only measured by money, but what I'm saying is having some assets and having some financial backing can help you, give you the freedom of what you're doing. So the rule of 72 will show you how quickly your investments can grow and how in a short period of time you'll be in a far better position than you are now. So it makes tolerating some of the short-term pain a lot easier. So really look at what can you do today to help secure a better future while living in the day, and I'll talk about that in a second also. One of the biggest issues that people do is they crystallize their losses. So when the GFC came, a lot of mum and dad investors went, oh my God, shares have gone down, quick, sell. And what they did is they crystallized their loss. So and by that I mean they guaranteed they're making a loss. If they'd held on to the investments that they had, yes, it would have been a bit tough. Yes, they wouldn't have got the revenues that they might have been getting previously. They have bounced back. You know, the ASX has gone down, but it's continued to increase from where we were in GFC levels. So, you know, look at the bigger picture every time. Because things go wrong, you know, and things go wrong all the time. One of our investment properties is a unit, and this is a picture of the inside of the unit. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? It's for sale. If you're interested, let me know. It's an inner-city apartment in the city of Melbourne where they have so many apartments. All the, oh yes, it's going to go up in price, and it's going to be, no, if anything, it's gone down in price. So it's, you know, we've made a mistake there. And so we've learned from it. We've tried to minimize the impact. Yes, we do have it for sale, but we're only going to sell it for the price we want. We're not just fire sailing it because we understand that the long-term growth isn't there for us. My first marriage, yeah, man, it went wrong. Don't get me wrong. We did some amazing stuff together. We did a lot of great things and achieved great things as a couple and in business together. But in the long term, it was not sustainable. We couldn't live with each other, and there was no one person at fault. It just did not work out, and so we had to do what we had to do. When I was jobless and looking for money, looking for a future, it was hard. It was hard, but I was focused on it is okay, not it will be okay. Now, recently in the Melbourne Fringe Festival, I performed a one-man show called Gough, about Gough Whitlam. This was before he died, so it was really quite timely. And here's an image of me in that show. Now, I speak in front of people all the time. Last weekend, I was up in front of 900 people. In this room, less than 50 people in the audience. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I was so nervous I was nearly fainting backstage. But I knew, and this was because, you know, I'm going from a script versus just having a few key points and going as I please, which is what I'm used to. So to stick to a script was a real challenge for me and was something very, very different. It was a 40-minute show and I had to remember it all. So sometimes things will go wrong, but the secret of getting through it is trusting in yourself, knowing that you'll be okay. When a bird is on a branch, the security is not about the twig holding firm. The security is knowing that if the branch breaks, the bird flies away. When I was in between wives and 36 grand in debt, my security was I knew I had the skill sets to make money in many different areas. And I knew that everything in the long run would be okay, and for today it was okay. So I had to trust in myself to keep moving forward. Essentially what I'm telling you to do is fail faster. Try stuff, give it a crack. There's a friend of mine I've been talking to about investing in property for over 15 years. 15 years. In that time, the first property she could have bought would have doubled, if not then doubled again. So give stuff a go. The worst thing can happen is that it doesn't work out, you lose a bit of money or time. So my thing is minimize your risks, but give stuff a go. So for yourself, how do you deal with fear? You know, people say that fear stands for forget everything and run. You know, it's really up to you. Other people use a different word than forget. But fear is, you know, courage is not the absence of fear, but dealing with it. So it is about risk management. You know, in one of our investment properties, these people had a Facebook party. We had to replaster a third of the house. But we had landlord insurance that covered most of that. Yeah, we had some out of pocket. Yeah, we had to paint the rest of the house as well. But then the rent went up by a significant amount because all of a sudden the house was in a better condition. So, again, as I said in the very beginning, we're looking for that positive perspective on some of the things that happen. So for yourself, understand, how do you deal with fear? You're going to have it. Man, I was backstage and my legs were shaking and I was feeling lightheaded when I'm going to go on for golf. And I just thought, no, everything will be okay. No matter what, I knew that if I forgot the lines, I could make it up. And I was just doing some deep breathing and it's sort of almost meditating, because I knew that would help me be centered for the first line stepping on stage. So how do you deal with fear? It's good to know how you deal with it before it approaches. So once you get hit by it, because you'll be stunned by the fear, you'll be going, no, this is my plan. This is how I deal with fear. So we're looking at those 7 keys of success again. We've talked about feeding the soul, seeking a positive attitude, holding the vision of success. And the next one is to focus. Focus on what you're doing right here, right now, and focus on what you can do today to help build that success. It's very easy to get sidetracked, particularly in today's current world of technology, where you can't even go to the toilet without taking your phone to check emails and Facebook and whatever as you're doing your business. So focus on one thing at a time, what you're doing right here, right now. Some people talk about luck. What part does luck play in success? You know, there are some people who seem to have all the luck in the world while others struggle. They work hard at stuff and it just doesn't come to pass. I've found with luck that it's really a furphy. It doesn't really exist. You know, some people say, oh, I was in the right spot at the right time. Part of that was that they've put themselves in multiple spots at multiple times versus sitting at home going, I'm waiting to be discovered. I'm waiting for that that knock on the door and here they are. It's not going to happen. I find, I think it was Einstein who said, the harder I work, the luckier I get, or luck is disguised as hard work in overalls, or something along those lines. So it's funny about how many people have said, they go, oh, you're an overnight success. It's like, yeah, but it's taken me 10 years to be the overnight success. Michael Gladwell's talking about the 10,000 hours that you need to become a master in what you're doing. So, maybe it's not 10,000 hours, but I've got to tell you, there are some hours involved, and the more hours you do, the more likely you are to be either better at what you do or realize it's not for you. So don't get hung up on luck. Too many people it's too easy to go, oh, look at all those lucky people over there, and all you're doing is saying, why should I have to work harder? Focus on yourself. This we said just before. Focus on what you're doing here and now. Don't worry about other people. They've got their own stuff. They've got their own issues that they're dealing with. Look at what you've got and what you need to do, and what's the thing that you need to do today to help you achieve that success that you're looking at. That's what's important. So the continually successful people, or the lucky people, have these habits. And this is what I've observed with people around the world in terms of some of the success that they have. They have a vision and they know what success is. And we've talked about that. And you've got the homework of find out what your vision and your success is. One of the things that they don't do is successful people do not compare and compete. By that is they don't compare their insides to other people's outsides. Now, my dad, when I was talking about private schools earlier, I was lucky enough to go to a private school in the days where it was only $2,000 a year. And for the last 3 years of my schooling career, 4 years of my schooling career, I went to a private school. And I'd gone to a friend's place on the weekend, and when I come home, my dad would ask me 2 questions. What does his dad do? And what car does he drive? Because based on those 2 things, my dad would make an assessment as to whether they're successful or not. Yet, my dad was the kind of person who would never borrow money to buy stuff. So they might have this whiz-bang flash car, but they could have been financed to the eyeballs to get it, but my dad wouldn't know that because he's applying his values to it. So can you see how comparing and competing never works? One of the people, it's very easy to pick a celebrity who is the same age as you and go, look what they've done. The one who's my age is Kylie Minogue. And it's quite easy to go, oh, look what Kylie's done. Look, she's a megastar and singing and making bazillions of dollars and la 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 la. But it's like, the life I've got, I'm sure she's like, oh, how good would it be to be anonymous? She's probably comparing her stuff to someone else anyway. So it is about look at yourself and be focused on, don't do the comparisons. Be grateful for what you have. And I suppose that leads into the next one is practice gratitude. And this was part of, when I'm sitting there $36,000 in debt, living on my sister's couch with no job and trying to fill in the day as I'm filling in application forms, getting another reject letter or just getting no response, because nowadays you just don't get a response. It's not like we've considered you a no, it's just no response. So what I did was just practice gratitude. What was I grateful for? So this is your second bit of homework. What I want you to do is start a gratitude diary and just every night write three things in your gratitude diary. What 3 things are you grateful for? Now, they don't have to be massive things. It may well be like, I'm grateful for the feel of carpet under my feet. I'm grateful for the house being clean. Whatever it is, but what it does, it helps you connect with all the great stuff you already have in your life. So all of a sudden you'll find that you are lusting less for more stuff because you acknowledge what you've already got. So be grateful. So set up a gratitude diary. It's a really important thing to do. The other thing is be where your hands are. And so that is be focused right here, right now. Because too often it's easy to be looking to the future and go, oh my God, one day this will happen and then I'll and ... versus what can I do today? What will I do to feed my soul today? How can I connect with other people today? How can I be the person I want to be today? So focus on today and what you can do today. It's the only day that you've got. So I would really focus on making sure that you live in the present and be really focused where you are. And the 5th thing is that people who are successful know that they're successful. And this is part of being aware. This is part of I don't need to compare and compete because I am successful. How I choose to measure it. Again, doesn't mean bucket loads of money. What it means is that I am successful within myself. So again, getting back to these 7 keys of success that we talked about. We talked about feeding the soul, seeking a positive attitude, having a focus, showing gratitude. And we talked about how I want you to do that as your homework. It's so important. It's amazing the difference having a gratitude journal or gratitude diary will make to your life. And I don't care who you are. I don't care whether you're a senior CEO in some business or whether you're a school student or somewhere in between. There is always something to be grateful for and to be genuinely grateful and not just give it a token look in. And the other one was hold the vision of success that we talked about. So a few of you are probably thinking, oh, but maybe I'm not successful. Let's have a look. Now, some research coming from the Australian Bureau of Statistics from 2013 in August has showed that these are the average earnings. The average earnings of someone in Australia is $49,000. Now, most of you watching this are earning more than that. So wouldn't that make you a success? To be, you're above average. Before the day even starts, you're above average. If you think about it, the top 10% of earners are earning over $100,000. And I suspect that some of you watching are earning over $100,000. So you're in the top 10%. Oh, by the way, if you do have investment properties, and as the ATO has said, that less than 8% of people have an investment property, less than 1/10 of that, so 0.8% of people have 2 investment properties. So if you've got 2 investment properties, you're the 1% that everyone is protesting about. Now, there's a lot of people who have 2 investment properties. Yeah, but I've got mountains of debt. It's like, yeah, but you're the 1%. And just for some perspective, the bottom 10% of people earn under $16,000 a year. That is so little money. So are you a success? I've got to tell you, I think you are. And as we said, success is not money. It is not about the money. Now, Dad said to me when I was younger, it's not a sin to be poor, it's just damn inconvenient. But success is measured in so many different ways, and it can be measured in how you spend your time. It can be measured who you spend your time with, and can be measured in what you actually do. It can be measured in the contribution that you make to the world. It can be measured in how you're acknowledged by your friends and family. So, again, it's going to be up to you to define success. And as I've already said to you, your homework is to define success. What is success to you? What does it mean to you? And how will you know when you've made success? By the way, this is Tim Costello, who runs World Vision, a charity here in Australia. He said to me, Why would you enter Tats Lotto? He said he's just stunned that number of Australians who enter Tats Lotto, or the pools or lotto or whatever it is called in the country that you live in. Why would you enter? He says, don't you live in Australia? Haven't you already won? And it's so true. If you look about how good things are, even for the people who are hard done by in Australia, things are good. Things are really good. So it becomes that being focused on how good do we already have it versus what is it that we want it to be. But sometimes stuff happens. Now, John Lennon famously made the quote, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. And I love that idea because as much as you want to set your focus and work towards it, things come out of left field all the time. Life is a roller coaster, so you want the ups and downs. If life was always up and fantastic, all of a sudden you wouldn't appreciate it anymore. It'd just be, I can do whatever I want, so I don't really want to do anything because there's no risk. So the roller coaster of up and downs is actually really good. It's a good thing. So when stuff happens, head back to the strategy. Head back to your plan. What is it that I was after? What is it that I'm saying is success for me? And how do I work back on that path? How do I get back on track? And you also want to minimise the risk. Now, I'm a motorbike rider. This is me in my Terminator phase on an old motorbike I had. It was a beautiful BMW. I really loved that motorbike. But a little old lady turned right at the no right turn sign, and I ploughed into her. And I discovered during that time that I cannot fly. I tried, but gravity works. I was very fortunate. I walked away with only internal bruising, a bit of nerve damage in one of my knees, which I still have to this day. The bike, not so lucky, did get a little bit trashed. But for me, I minimise the risk. That gear that you see me wearing there, plus I always wear a helmet, and it's always a full face helmet, it's the safest gear you can get. That's why I wear it. In business, I have insurances. My wife and I have life insurances. We minimise our risk. Now, some risk we're happy to carry, but we minimise the risk. In our properties, we have landlord insurance because people have Facebook parties. So for you, how do you minimise the risk when stuff's going to happen? Part of that is get a mentor. Get someone who understands what you're going through and can guide you through it. Someone who can they don't have to be massively ahead, but maybe 3 steps ahead of you so they can share their experience on what's worked for them or not. The other thing I have is a mastermind group. Now, they call themselves Warwick's Angels because there's 3 ladies with myself. But we have a conversation on a weekly basis talking about what's coming up, some accountability. I work on my own. I've got some VAs and stuff, but I work on my own. So it's great to have someone to be accountable to. It's great to have someone to bounce ideas off. So mastermind groups are fantastic, and I highly recommend that you get them because they will help you stay focused on what counts. The other thing is to continue your professional development, whether it's the books that you read, conferences that you go to, CDs you listen to. It's not reading the paper. I've got to tell you, the papers have become, I don't know, waste of space, waste of paper. They're not even on paper anymore. But look at where is the information that's relevant to you and your business. There might be certain blogs out there that you think are of great value. Maybe there's certain e-newsletters that you get. Maybe it's mine. You get it every week. It's good for you. But there's got to be some kind of continuing professional development. Again, we're going back to that question. Are you good enough to get better? And you want to keep that open mind so you can continue to learn. So don't do it alone. So we're going back to the 7 keys to success here. We've talked about feeding the soul, positive attitude, focus, showing gratitude, hold the vision, and get help. You can't do it on your own. Who'd want to? Who would want to be on their own all the time, facing every decision, every hardship, every joy on your own? Get help. Get someone on your team to be able to do that. Now, people talk about, but I want to reach my potential. Can I say to you, let that go? Potential's a myth. I mean, it's so subjective, and frequently the potential is always 10 metres just beyond where we currently are. We're never going to be happy with that. Focus more on every choice has a cost and what will I choose. Be aware of a great comment that was in a book, Affluenza, and if you haven't read it, I'd highly recommend it. In the Affluenza, it talks about where people are spending money they don't have to buy stuff they don't want to impress people they don't like. And I see this time and time again. Hard Rubbish Day. It used to be on Hard Rubbish Day, you'd see all these big old tellies, the old school telly with a big empty plasma telly box. Now, you're seeing the old plasma tellies with the 3D box, because people have upgraded. Why are we buying stuff if your telly, for example, if your telly's already working, why do you upgrade? So, Why are we spending money on disposable items that we don't really need? So be aware of that, and really look at what counts. Again, this is important about getting back to what is your vision of success and where is your focus to achieve that. And be aware of our attempts to sabotage. This is a picture from MC Escher, who I love his work, mainly because he's part mathematician, part artist. This is the never-ending upward and downward spiral. And so often our own sabotage looks like this, whether it's procrastination, whether it's always looking to the future or looking behind and not focusing on where we are right now. It is about staying the path, talking with others and remaining focused on what counts for you. It's too easy. And sometimes what really sabotages us is the voice in our head. But the good news is that we have a pattern that we can interrupt. And I've got a resource coming up at the end that I'm going to offer you, so be aware of that. But what you can do is interrupt that pattern. Let me go through the pattern first and then show you how you can interrupt it. Now, typically what happens is we have thoughts. Yes, I know. We have thoughts. So what happens with our thoughts is our thoughts then become our words, because when we're thinking a thought all the time, good or bad, all of a sudden we'll talk about it more and our thoughts becomes our words. Our words in turn become our actions, because if we talk about something enough, we are then going to act on it. And our actions become our habits, because if our actions can always take place, they become a habit because we habitually do it. A lot of people I know drink a coffee first thing in the morning, not because they like it, it's just become a habit. It's just what I do. And then our habits become our beliefs, because if I don't have a coffee in the morning, the day's not right, so therefore I believe I must have a coffee every day. So our habits become our beliefs, and then our beliefs set our destiny. This is a pattern that has been discovered years ago. I think it was Lau who discovered it. And the good news is you can break this pattern any step of the way. And you use the fake it till you make it approach to do that. The easiest thing to do is change your thoughts, because you can change your thoughts like that. So look at changing your thoughts. If you're thinking negative thoughts, swap them to positive ones. And maybe you're not going from, massively negative thoughts to hugely positive thoughts. Maybe you're stepping into neutral in the middle. Who knows? But change your thoughts to start with. Or at the very least, you can change your words. Maybe you can just change your actions. Just do something different. And that will then break the pattern, and you'll get into the pattern that you want to get into. So again, design the success you want. The very beginning, we were talking about what is success, what is our focus, and then have this pattern set up so that it helps you achieve that. Because in essence, you only have a certain amount of time in life. While people say, life's too short, it is in fact, Billy Connolly pointed out, the longest thing you're ever going to do, regardless of how long it is. But you've got the future that you can focus on, the past to learn from, but you've got to live in today. So that center clock is where you live. You've got to live in today. And the way that you can achieve this success is with the 7 keys. So let me just quickly go through them again. You've got to feed your soul. There's got to be something that you do on a regular basis. And for me, mine's choir. I love my choir, and I love the singing in a group and how it really... the rest of the world, I don't care about while I'm doing that. So what is it for you? Maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's an act of service. Something you do, something that feeds the soul. It's really important. You want to seek a positive attitude, and that is look for the positive in things. Look for a positive frame or a healthy perspective. Yeah, you can see a negative thing, how everything's stuffed and it's, oh my God, But it's better and healthier to look for the positive in things, and it'll help keep you buoyant. You want to remain focused on the here and now. Like, what are you doing right now to achieve the goals that you've set yourself? And how can you show your gratitude to those around you? Who do you need to say thank you to in your life? And typically our family and friends, the ones closest to us, are the ones that we overlook the most. So look at showing that gratitude to the people in your life. Get help. You don't have to do it alone. Whether it's from getting help as getting a cleaner in to help do the stuff you don't want to do, whether it's having a mentor, whether it's having a mastermind group, whether it's getting professional counseling, if you know, whatever you need, get help to help leapfrog and really rocket yourself forward. Hold the vision of success. What is it that you're striving for beyond just your work and the job? What's the bigger picture that you're striving for? And hold that vision. I mean, I've got a poster just over here on my wall showing me the success of my business, and I've also got pictures here showing what is the bigger picture success that my wife and I are aiming for. You then have to look at the most important one, which is have fun. The Minister for Fun once said to me, if it's not fun, don't do it. If you have to do it, make it fun. I noticed on an article in Entrepreneur magazine recently that companies are going to these seminars to show how to have fun as a company to better engage on social media because people want to have fun. We are not built to be serious all the time. There are times and places that it is okay to have fun, and in fact there are probably more times and places than you realise where it's important to have fun. Think of a funeral. Think of it in the wake afterwards. People are usually laughing just remembering some of the great times they've had with the person, and it's tragic and it's sorrowful and it's fun. So I would say to you, the successful people know how to have fun at every step of the way. I want to help you with success, and as I said previously that I do have an offer for you, and I just want to quickly go through that with you. I've written a book. I've put a book called Get More Inspiration. The most important thing about this book is that it is not designed to be read. Yes, no, you heard that correctly. It's not designed to be read. My understanding is that most people who buy business books buy them and have sort of a flick and then don't read them intently and get back on with what they're doing. So that's what I've designed. It's a flick book. Flick to a page. Each session in it is about somewhere between 1 and 3 pages. It's a short read, easy digestible, and then you get to apply that learning to what you're doing right here, right now. And there's little keys and little workplaces in there for you to work straight away with the book. I'm really proud of the book. It comes out in January 2015, and I've already sold about 50 copies of the book as pre-orders, so I'd love to make that available to you. Now, it is $35, but I'm going to throw in some bonuses. There's another book called Agents of Action. Now, I was one of the 11 contributing authors in there, and we put together some of the different secrets we use to take action and how we go to achieve that. That's worth $25. I'm going to give you a copy of that with this book for Get More Inspiration. Recently, I was on RPPFM and we had a whole conversation, went for about 50 minutes on how do we have more fun at work. The last thing I finished up with was to have more fun. There's some practical ideas and tips and tools on how to have more fun at work. Now, my CDs I sell for $39. So this all up is worth $97, and today I want to offer it to you for $35. But I appreciate your time. So I want to give you an extra special deal, and that is I've got a Get More Done in 90 Days e-course. I sell this off my website for $297. So all up, you're looking at just under $400 worth of value for only $35. I will pay the postage, I will get it to you. It's really quite that simple. So all you got to do is go to getmoreinspiration.com and you can order it. Now, a lot of people buy stuff off the internet and think, yeah, what if it's dodgy? And I get that. I've done it myself. So I'm going to give you a guarantee on it. So it's worth $394. It's only $35. I'm going to give you a 200% money back guarantee. Let me explain that. If you buy the book, and you have it for 3 months, and you read the book and you take action on what's in it, if you don't believe that you'll get your $35 worth, get in touch with me and I'll give you your money back. There's your first 100%. I'll give you your money back, no questions asked. What also I'll do is I'll let you keep everything. I'll let you keep the book, keep the other stuff, and that's the other 100%. So I don't think you're going to get a better guarantee than that anywhere, but I stand by this, and I think you'll find that it's some really, really good value. All right, so head over to getmoreinspiration.com right now and you can order that book today. As with everything in life, action is the magic word. No, not words are the magic action. So what are you going to do differently because of this session? You've invested just under an hour of your time. I want you to achieve something differently because of it. At the very least, I have 3 action items for you. Number 1, I want you to define for yourself, what is success? What does success look like for you, your family, those around you? Whether you've got, if you've got kids and stuff, why not sit down together and design what is success for us? What is it that we are going to achieve as a family unit? I'd also like you to start a gratitude journal. At the very least, write 3 things every day, and they can't be the same things, but 3 things every day that you are grateful for. And naturally, I'd love you to visit getmoreinspiration.com and order the book because I think it'll add great value to your life. And for $35, I think it's a bargain. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you being here. If I can help you any further, my details are on the screen. Just get in touch. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much. You've been great. I've been Warwick. See you next time.